It is 6 p.m. and tonight it is our regular board meeting on December 17th, 2025. And first, I ask that Clerk Milner take attendance, please.
Director Biermeyer.
Here.
Director Michael Mulder.
Here.
Director Zuzek.
Here.
Vice Chair Dressley.
Here.
Chair Tate.
Here.
Director Bruns.
Here.
And Director Milner here.
Thank you. And also joining us at the table, we have 3 of our 4 student representatives, along with our superintendent. Could I please ask all who are able to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remove your headwear? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I would like to make a motion to amend the agenda to add the 25-26 revised budget to the discussion and report section of the agenda.
Thank you. Could I get a second with that?
Zuzek seconds with the amendment as disclosed.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the amended agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously to approve the agenda with the amendment. Next, I'd like to take a moment to recognize our visitors in the room. Thank you for joining us both here and online. We appreciate your support of Hastings Public Schools. And first up, we have our Raider Spotlight.
Yeah, so I would like to introduce Mr. Trent Hansen to come forward and acknowledge 2 recipients tonight, Chloe Arness for girls swim and dive and Nolan St. Sauver for adapted soccer. And I'll turn it over to you, Mr.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Tate, Superintendent Ware Camp Herman, board members, and student reps. This is what you call a live audience behind me, right? This is awesome. So it's a pleasure to kick off the night with some student recognition. So as noted, we're gonna honor 2 Hastings High School students that in the most recently completed season, fall of 2025, were Minnesota State High School League champions, one in an individual activity, one in a team activity. So it's pretty rad to have junior Chloe Arness sitting right next to me. We're going to start with her. She was the Class A state diving champion. So the 34th individual state championship in school history, 2nd in diving, 1st female diver. And there are so many accolades and stats, and what was a really decorated year. I'm going to give you just a couple. She set, at last count, 8 different records throughout the course of the year, not just the state championship, but 8 different records. The school record is considered what's the highest total that you had in any meet at any time at any place. And so she set that this year for the 2nd year in a row. She broke her own record from last year. And then every facility has their own set of records as well. So if you're in a particular pool and the diving record was X, Chloe rolls in and just breaks it and sets it there too. The other thing that's really cool to know is that as we were talking with her coach and her shortly ago, it's more rare for a diver to also be a swimmer at the same time, and she's an accomplished swimmer. She's fast, and so in most meets, she's in 2 or 3 swimming events during the night, not just the diving, which is highly technical and highly specialized. So she is one heck of an athlete, and so just want to spread out the recognition. You know, our head coach, Katie McAlpin, and assistant coach, Joe Haas. And then I think it's a really cool recognition, and I'm just going to point her out to you. Her diving specific coach was sitting right next to her in the crowd. That's also her mother, and she is also the previous record holder of the female school record in diving. So we're just keeping it in the family. I got to mix it all around, and I didn't ask her permission to do that, but I think it's all part of the cool story, right? So that's a good deal. So I will pause there. She deferred from any of her kind of planned comments, but willing to answer a question or 2 if anyone has one.
Well, that was actually one of my questions. Because I went to school with your mom, I biked to her house when we were little. How many records of your mom's did you break over the years here?
Just the one, but she had 2, but a few other people broke it before me. Just one.
Got it. That's awesome. And are you thinking about doing this beyond high school at this point?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, right. You're good at it, so keep it going. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Way to represent Hastings well. Yeah. Any other questions from anybody? All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
For you.
There you go. You get to grab that one.
And we can't wait to see your picture.
I'll note, because there's a couple cool images there, every sport has their own unique dynamics, right? Sometimes part of the dynamic is that the event is loud, it's crazy, it's kind of hard to hear. In diving, it's literally the exact opposite. You know, the decorum is you don't move, it's quiet, right? Which gives it a completely different intensity. And like all eyes are literally on you. So it's pretty cool to watch in general. It's particularly fascinating at the U of M, where the state diving championships are held. Huge crowd, quiet crowd when they're launching, but awesome accomplishment. So Lindy, if you wouldn't mind punching to the next one. Nolan couldn't be with us tonight, but I want to make sure that he gets his appropriate. Well, he's not here because he has a game. He's on the floor with a floor hockey right now. But you had a chance to meet Nolan, those of you that were here in the summer, and his adapted soccer team was the state champion in the fall. So it's the second consecutive state high school league championship for the Hawks, which is great. And of note, in this particular tournament, there was 3 games. Nolan scored 11 goals in 3 games. He scored all 5 goals in the championship game. He is a machine. And so he really was disappointed that he wasn't able to be here to tell you about it, but I have a feeling he might be back. He's got a couple years left to play. And I'll leave you with this. Our awesome partners at HCTV are working on a 2025 Champions Focus, a video highlight that'll include all the track and field items from the spring, Nolan from the spring, Chloe and Nolan from the fall. That's going to be done probably at the end of this week so we can kick the 2025 video into circulation before the calendar year's over. But it's been a lot of fun to watch these kids get out and go. So it's a great way to start. Thank you. Yeah, you bet.
Well, we're sorry that Nolan couldn't join us tonight either, but congrats to him for sure. All right, and next up we have our Spark Grant recipients.
Yeah, so I'm going to go up there tonight
Okay.
and do this a little differently. So I'm going to speak from here so that our recipients can just come up to the podium as I announce your name and what you've been awarded. And then I'm going to hand you a certificate, and if you can just stand here until all are up here, and then we'll give you an opportunity to tell everyone a little bit about what the plans are for the use of these funds. I'd like to announce that, again, these funds are from the St. Croix Valley Foundation. We appreciate all the support that they give us. The people here that apply for these grants put a lot of time and effort into exactly what the use will be for, and it's going to be for more opportunities for kids that come outside the regular practice of what might happen in school. So maybe a bit more hands-on. So I'm excited to have all of you hear about our winners. So I'm going to go ahead and start announcing. First up is Let's Get Sawing, Rosario Malo from Hastings Middle School. Congratulations for receiving $2,610. Congratulations. Appreciate it. Our next recipient is STEM Robotics, Jill Jensen, Jennifer Harvey, Aaliyah Suzik, through our elementary school. This is for $11,254.28. Congratulations. Our third recipient, again, Kennedy Elementary Prairie Installation, Jill Jensen, and this is for $15,000. Our next recipient is CNC Plasma Cutter for Metals class, Nathan Newman for Hastings High School, $15,000. Our next one is Learning from Ojibwe, author Anton Truer, Carrie Jager, Anthony Letourneau. This is Heather Kopp, Christy Baum, Jackie Morrison for Hastings High School, and this is $3,500. Our next recipient is for an outdoor classroom, Colleen Tome, Samantha Pearl, and Sarah Jensen at Tilden. And this is for $9,535.25.
Thank you.
And our final recipient, another outdoor classroom for Annette Hansen, Aaliyah Zuzek, Matt Esterby, McAuliffe Elementary for $15,000. So I want to officially again congratulate all of you, and I would love it if you take some time, a little bit. You have a seat right here and tell us real quickly, the group, a little bit about your projects. Whoever wants to begin.
So I'm Zari Molo. I teach 6th grade STEM here at the middle school. So I have a Let's Get Sawing. So in my grant, I kind of talked about prep for the high school. I'm requesting, or I have received 10 chomp saws, which is pretty much a combination of a tabletop, kid-safe router saw or a jigsaw. And it only cuts cardboard, doesn't cut wood. Again, I work with 6th graders. It's supposed to be kids safe, ages like 3+. And I just thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of prep them for the high school when they get to work with the real stuff, or even when they get to 8th grade here and work in the wood shop here.
Thank you.
All right, so Annette and I are here receiving this grant for renewing the McAuliffe Woodlands, which was first established in 1997. And so it's been almost 30 years now, and it's in need of some TLC. We're going to hope to make it a bit more accessible for students and staff to use. We're going to hopefully add in, some more signage, some space for outdoor learning out there, more accessible, and make it a good space for not just STEM and science, but for all the classroom teachers to be able to engage kids in nature and bring learning outside. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
This $11,000 is going to be spent to buy each of the elementary schools a classroom set of a robot named Dash, which is a 3-wheeled blue Cyclops that can be Bluetooth controlled with student iPads. It is very user-friendly, but has increasingly sophisticated programs that students can do, so it can be used for K through 4 and increase skills, computational thinking, and skills in computer science. And then the $15,000 will be used to transform about 4 1/4 acres of what is currently lawn grass in the backfield of Kennedy into restored prairie. I'll be working with Prairie Restoration, which is a company I've contracted with at a previous school, to transform that into a shortgrass prairie with wildflowers. And again, that will be an opportunity for students to be able to study how diversity of plants and animals can change with that new type of lawn, compared to lawn grass, how that will increase. And there are science standards from K through 4 that we'll be able to use in that space. And being able to see those changes over time and increases in populations, doing controlled experiments, looking at seed dispersal, looking at plant animal structures. And again, I'm hoping to have classroom teachers have some opportunities to use that as a space to take students as well as for some STEM lessons. Thank you.
It's still on, yeah. Thank you for having me here. You guys, along with the St. Croix Valley Foundation, have given the high school metals program funding to get a CNC plasma cutter. Our students at the high school are grades 9 through 12 that are in the general metals and advanced metals classes. They can earn college credits as part of this class. And one of the things we do is we get large sheets of metal in that are 4x8 or 6x10. And students need to make those big pieces of metal into small pieces of metal that they can design and build their projects and have a lot of quality learning through that. Currently, we have a handheld plasma cutter, so it's as good as, it's as good as the students. And that's really wonderful, but this is gonna open up a lot of opportunities for them to build and design a lot higher quality products and have a much more rich learning experience as they go through designing and building those products. So I really appreciate what the foundation has done and all the support that you guys keep showing to the pathways for tech ed.
We're gonna find out who gets to talk.
Yeah.
So our award is for Hastings Reads. It's for Anton Troyer to come, and we'll pay for part of him to come and visit us on probably a snowy, cold February day, because that's how it is when we plan fun events. He wrote everything you wanted to know about Indians, but were afraid to ask, both an adult and a children's, or more of a young adult version, and then Werewolves Won't Die. And these books are being used at both the middle school and the high school. When he visits, he'll visit the high school, the middle school, and for all of the community members, and I'll have this if you want it, he'll be at the Art Center at night, so people can come and see him.
And Hastings Reads is a program that really brings books, authors, knowledge, activities to our community. It's in our schools, and then it's our community members. But I'm a parent in the district with young children in the elementary school and a teacher, and I just see everybody coming together around books and learning. So it's cool.
All right, we're from Tilden, the preschool team, all-day preschool. Our grant is for outdoor classroom. Play is the work of children, and we've kind of been on this journey where we're noticing that in our modern world, a statistic we ran across is that children are becoming more sedentary. Their day is more structured, both at home. We used to say, oh, you can do that at home, but they can't. So we're starting to see that we are the place that we have to allow child development to happen. And so with an outdoor classroom, we are trying to bring the classroom outdoors because outdoor experience are more dynamic. It provides mental health, physical, gross motor, fine motor, social emotional growth. I mean, it hits all of our objectives. So it's just like the most dynamic place that we can be having a classroom. So this will provide us because we want the environment already is rich in outdoors, but these tools that we're bringing, these toys, will provide opportunities for science, for language growth. We have a big track, some tires for heavy lifting that helps with self-regulation, a scale, problem solving, a scale in terms of like weight. So, and we've seen a lot of growth already by bringing our classroom outside. We also noticed that this fits with the district's mission, we care, we empower, we achieve. This does put the child at the center of learning. And we hope that this then carries home with the children. And we see that kids are talking about like social, emotional, self-regulation words, but we also hope it like bleeds into kindergarten. And we also have seen, we've been wanting to do reverse integration, not integration, with special education, but it's naturally happening outside where kids are interacting, and it's just been fantastic. So we are honored to receive this grant, and we are pleased and delighted to put it in place. So thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, I'm envious of our students right now. We have so much cool stuff going on. It's incredible. So next up, we have our fall 2025 employees of the semester.
So thank you. I'm going to just stay up here, and I'm excited to announce our employees of the fall 2025 semester. I will announce each of you individually, come up, and then you can tell us a little bit about yourselves. So the first person I'd like to honor tonight is Aaliyah Zuzek. She's a STEM teacher at McAuliffe Elementary. She's nominated for the Employee of the Semester Award for her exceptional and passionate work launching the new McAuliffe STEM program. So Aaliyah, will you please come forward again? And I have a
Hi, so I'm Aaliyah, and I am very honored to receive this award. I last spring made a big transition from being a second grade classroom teacher for the past 7 years into being our STEM teacher, and that was not a decision that I took lightly, but when this position was announced, it just spoke to all of my own passions and excitement about education. And I remember in my interview, I told a story to Matt Esterby about how some of my most vivid teaching experiences have been centered around STEM activities, the ones that really stick with me, the moments that I remember with my students. And it just really drives me. And my parents, who are here and who are math and science teachers, also probably have contributed to my interest and passion there. But it's been a really incredible experience. It's been a lot of hard work, a lot of time, but just the students are thriving and they are loving it and they are excited and they're smiling and they're problem solving. And I see them in the hallways and, what are we doing in STEM today? And, they're like, oh, I put a blue bot on my Christmas list. And, just like seeing their excitement and the things that they're doing. And it's just been really amazing. And I have awesome teammates and we're really excited about getting this program going and where it's going to go in the future. So thank you very much. Yeah.
So our next employee of the semester is Pete McGinnis, our FIED teacher, athletic director, and coach for the middle school. I do not believe he's here. Let's see, he's back. I'll just say Pete has nominated for his 39 years of exceptional and selfless service to the Hastings Community and School District as a teacher, coach, and middle school athletic director. I want to honor him tonight, even in his absence. Thank you. Our next recipient is Erin Rankin, speech pathologist with our early childhood special education program at Tilden. Erin is nominated for her outstanding work as a speech language pathologist in the early childhood special education program. She consistently demonstrates an amazing attitude and expert dedication. So Erin, can you please come forward?
Okay. Hi, I'm Erin, and I'm a speech therapist at Tilden, and I'm just thank you for this recognition. It's really nice, and I love working at Tilden. I have amazing coworkers. Some of them were up here just talking about the really neat, just innovative, thoughtful things that they're doing to bring such great learning opportunities to our tiny ones. And it's a great place to be. I look forward to going to work every day, which is really lucky, I think, because not everyone can say that. So, I'm just really happy to be here and grateful that I landed at Tilden 6 years ago. So, thank you.
And now I'd like to introduce Jackie Morrison, special education teacher, as well as the NHS advisor and department lead at the high school. Jackie is nominated for embodying the high standards of Hastings High School through her passion, leadership, and comprehensive commitment across multiple school and district roles. Her nominator notes that Hastings High Schools would be, quote, completely lost without her, unquote, due to her readiness to take on any challenge with a smile. Let's welcome Jackie.
Hi.
I really hate talking about myself, but I am Jackie Morrison. I'm a special education teacher at the high school. I think this is my 7th year, maybe 8th, I'm not sure. I really feel privileged to work in this district. I have the most amazing colleagues. They are my lifelong friends. And I also said before, I am a parent in this district, and I feel so honored to have the teachers that my kids have had. A lot of them have been in the room tonight because they're exceptional. So I think it is an honor to go to work every day. I love working with our students. I am a co-teacher in some math classes. I am a case manager. I co-advise the NHS program. I'm all over the place in that building, and I just love seeing kids and working with kids, all kinds of kids, special ed, gen ed, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, thank you.
And next, I'd like to introduce Korean Geiken. She's our lead cook at Pinecrest Elementary. Korean is nominated for her talented work, exceptional composure, and proactive critical thinking in the Pinecrest lunchroom. Korean's ability to maintain ease and efficiency while always seeking improvement makes her a vital asset to the team. So please welcome Korean.
Hi, I'm Korean Geiken. I am back in the kitchen for a reason. I don't like being in front of people. I've been here almost 30 years. I started to be home with my kids, and it's an amazing job, and I love every minute of it. I've been at the old middle school. I've been at Tilden. I've been at the high school, back to the middle school, and I'm at Pinecrest now for the last 12 or 13 years. Thank you for nominating me. I was totally shocked when they walked in. I'm like, what is going on? I couldn't do it without my team. I have a really good team. They're helping me make decisions. When we had a power outage, we're like, okay, what are we gonna do? Let's think about it, let's talk about it. I would not be able to do it, my job, without them doing their job. So I'm very lucky to have the team that I have. Thank you so much.
And our final recipient tonight is Pam Zeiss, Administrative Assistant at Pinecrest Elementary. Pam is nominated for being the heart of the front office and an indispensable support for the entire school community. So let's welcome Pam. Oh, she's not here tonight. She wasn't able to. And it's okay. I can tell you all, I was the fortunate one to get to deliver the news that they were awarded the Employee of the Semester. And it was so fun to see how awestruck they were and so incredibly surprised, and which shows you their humility. I can tell you when we read the comments of all of the nominations that come in, it's amazing what your colleagues say about you. And I just appreciate that so much, because I said when I came in, we're a team, we need to act as a team, we need to lead as a team. And when I see those comments, that's exactly what's happening in our schools. So I want to thank all of you for the work that you do each and every day, and for your colleagues who nominated you, as they are working equally as hard. So thank you so much for what you do for the Hastings community, and I wish you all the best for the next semester.
All right, congratulations to everyone. All of your efforts in our district are very much appreciated. We do not have, public comment is typically next. We do not have anyone who signed up for public comment this evening. So next we are on to Truth and Taxation with Ms. Subert.
Thank you, Chair Tate, Directors of the Board, and Superintendent Werkamp Herman. My name is Jennifer Subert, and I serve as the Director of Finance and Operations for the district. And tonight I'll be providing information on the taxes payable in 2026. So based on Minnesota state law, we have to hold a public meeting and include a presentation of our current year budget, as well as the proposed property tax levy. So those are What I'll be covering tonight, included with that, there'll be some background information on school funding. I'll talk about the district's budget as well as the district's proposed tax levy for the taxes payable in 2026, and then we'll open it up for public comment. Minnesota State Legislature is responsible for setting school funding, and there has to be a uniform system, and that includes the taxes. So as a result, the funding is highly regulated. The state sets the formulas which determine the revenue. Most of those are based on an amount per pupil. And then there's tax policy for local schools and a maximum authorized property tax levy. The state authorizes the school board to submit for referendums and operating and capital needs, but those do require voter approval. I'm going to just touch on two main areas that impact school district funding, and the first one is the general education formula. So this graph kind of illustrates that since 2002-2003, the general education formula has not kept pace with inflation. There's currently a gap of about $1,420 per pupil, and for our district, that equates to a little over $6 million. So it's a big number. And then the other major funding area is special education, which there's mandatory services that we're required to provide to students. And with this being underfunded, the general fund is forced to cover those costs. So you can see that statewide it's underfunded by about $503 million for fiscal year 2024. And then even with some recent funding, the costs will still be underfunded by about $524 million statewide for fiscal year 2028. In addition, there's some proposed cuts that are coming even further for special ed. So there was a cut to the special ed transportation aid. And then there's also a blue ribbon commission right now that's looking at the special ed funding that's responsible for cutting another $250 million. As we look at our budget, school districts are divided into separate funds as required by law. So we'll have our general fund, our food service, our community service, our building construction, debt service, the trust account, internal service, and then the OPEB trust, which is for other post-employment benefits. This next slide is just a summary of our overall revenues and expenditures by fund. I'm not going to talk through this, but if anybody's interested, this presentation is included in board book and can look at it. So then just some additional summary information. If we look at our revenues for our 25-26 budget, our revenues are approximately $82 million, with our general fund being the largest at about 85% of that. And then after that, it's our debt service fund at about 5.7%. And then our food service fund at 4%, and then our community service fund at 3.5%. Again, so that was all of our revenues. If we're looking at just our general fund revenues, those are about $70 million. And the sources that they come from, the major source is the state, so that's 70% roughly, and then local is the second largest at about 27%. You can see the federal government is the third, and that's at about 2.3% of all of our general fund revenues. Moving on then to expenditures. For 25-26, our general fund expenditure total is $71 million, the largest being salaries and wages and employee benefits. So we are definitely a people business. Those two equate to about 71.5% of our overall expenditures. And then the purchase services is the next largest one, and we contract out for our busing, we contract out for our subs, and we contract out for some staff. So that one also is definitely kind of the people side of things. So those three combined is greater than 91% of our overall budget. And then if we look at our general fund expenditures by program, again, if we look at the ones that are really touching the classroom, so the regular instruction, vocational ed, special ed, instructional support, pupil services, if we add all those together, that's over 80% of our expenditure budget is directly tied back into the classroom. Just a quick reminder that sometimes changes in our tax levy do not determine a change in our budget. So the tax levy is based on many state-determined formulas plus voter-approved referendums. And some increases are revenue neutral, being offset by state aid. Again, our expenditure budget is limited by the state set revenue formulas, voter-approved levies, and fund balance. And then just an increase in school taxes does not always correlate to an increase in our budget. School districts are on a different cycle than the city and the county. So our budget year begins July 1st in comparison to theirs being January 1st. And then the 2026 taxes will provide revenue for us in fiscal year 26-27 versus for the city and county, it's on their calendar year. And then this is just a sample of the proposed tax statement that all parcels would have received, and there are different taxing jurisdictions within that, and each jurisdiction will list the amount that they're getting in taxes. So school district property taxes, again, each school district has a limited authority to levy for taxes, and MDE calculates the levy amounts for all the different categories, and it's either based on state law or voter approval. This just kind of walks you through the steps of the property tax process, but it really starts with the city or county assessor. They're looking at the estimated market value for each parcel. And then again, those legislative formulas that determine how much we can levy for. And then the county auditor calculates the tax for each one of the jurisdictions. The Minnesota Department of Ed calculates the limits, and then the board sets the levy. So we're at step 5 tonight, and then the county auditor will divide that final levy by the district's total tax capacity to determine the tax rates. So September 8th, we did our preliminary levy. December 24th, the board had approved that. In November, those tax statements had been mailed out. Tonight is our public hearing. And then following the hearing, the school board will certify the final levy amount. Our proposed payable 2026 tax levy is a decrease from 2025 of about $399,000 or 1.9%. And then the changes by levy category and the reasons for the major increases or decreases in the levy are coming up. So this is just a summary that you can see comparing the payable 2025 taxes to the payable 2026 taxes. And there are many categories. And again, as we talked about, there's formulas to determine all these amounts, but you can see in the total, it is a decrease of that $399,000, and it was also a decrease last year. The change is really related to prior year adjustments. So there, many of the things are based on estimates, and then later years they're recalculated based on actual information, and they're retroactively adjusted. And then the factors that impact an individual taxpayer's taxes. So there can be a change in their individual property, so that can impact how much tax they pay. There can be a change in the total of all properties within the district. Again, that will impact what they pay. And for Hastings, our tax base increased by about 1.61%. And then the referendum market value was also an increase of about 2.17. So we're seeing an increase in the value of the property within our district. And then just increases and decreases in the levy amounts caused by those formulas or voter-approved referendums. This is just a quick kind of example that relates to the property valuations. So if we have two houses that are equally valued at $100,000 and our total levy were $500, each property would be paying $250 of that. But as the values of the houses change, so this example will show the top house is $110,000, the bottom is $125,000, the total levy is still the $500. You can see that they're paying a different tax amount because it's tied back to the value of their home. As we look at a 4-year comparison, and this is just kind of meant to be an example of the school district taxes only, and it's shown based on no change and a 10.8% increase in property values for residential homes. It's meant to be an example for properties within the city of Hastings, and it is prepared by Ellers, our municipal advisor. You can see here, if we just kind of follow the example of a $300,000 home, the taxes in 2023 were $1,080, 2024, $1,120, so an increase there. But then when we get to 2025, there's a decrease. It went to $1,067, and then 2026, another decrease, $1,003. There's some additional examples in here that I won't go through based on different property types, but again, they are included in the presentation if anybody's interested in going back and looking at those. And then there are some state property tax, either like refund programs or deferral programs. I have those listed here. I would just say contact your tax advisor on any of these if you're considering them to understand them better. And then our next steps, so the board will accept public comments on the proposed levy, and then later in the action items, the board will certify the 2026 property tax levy. So I can turn it over to the board if there's any questions.
I do have a question. Could you go back to the slide where you had the examples, or not the examples, the home, that one?
Yep.
So the taxes are going down for the second year in a row. But even if you look at the taxes, the proposed taxes for 2026, those estimates are actually lower than what people were paying in 2023 for taxes on every single one of them.
Correct.
So that's good news for taxpayers.
Correct.
Can I follow up?
Yeah, Dr. Zuzek.
So just to clarify, because the levy is going down by 1.9%. But my taxes, when I look at the school portion, are going down by more than 1.9%. And it doesn't take a lot of head scratching to see that that happens because what we are levying, what we are getting is less than what we got last year. That's the primary driver. But the total value of property within the district, or the tax capacity of the district, has gone up considerably. Did you say 2%?
Yep. So I can get back to that. Maybe.
I think it was 2%. And then
Yeah, so our tax base is increasing by 1.61, and then the referendum market value is increasing by 2.17.
Yeah, so that means that the first number is the value of my property individually. On average, individual property owners, their value went up by 1.3%, but that tax capacity also includes the growth of businesses or other homes, other properties that are in the district.
Correct.
So those are really the drivers.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good news, to your point, Chair Tate. Yeah.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Yes.
And now I'd like to open it up for public comments. Anyone is welcome to come up, and just want to remind you, this isn't an opportunity to interact or ask questions, but you're welcome to come up and share your thoughts if you'd like. All right. No, oh, yep, okay, welcome.
Thank you. So she was saying that the tax was, the levies were tax voter approved levies, right? So where's the one that you guys voted on the board? Is that included in this, or what happened to that?
Yes, it is included in this. It was initially a voter approved, and then legislatively, there's an option for a board renewal.
Okay, but that, the legislator put that law in 2020. This was supposed to be up in 2023, and the legislator put that in 2023, and then the board voted to extend that levy for another 10 years. So it wouldn't have been a voter approved. It would have been a board approved levy. But you're saying it's a voter approved levy. The voters did not know that it would go another 10 years. The voters voted on it for 10 years. And then that was supposed to end, that contract. That's a contract. When a voter approved, it's a voter approved levy. So that contract was up. And then the board okayed it without the voter approved, so that should be corrected because it wasn't. And then there was another, that same year, there was another levy put on the voters, which they did approve. And I'm wondering, that was like $20 million. I'm wondering if that levy, the board will extend that for another 10 years. And if the voters knew that at the time when they voted for that levy.
So the initial levy was voter approved, and then based on legislation, the board had the authority to renew it. So that's the one piece. The second piece is the additional one that was added was the tech levy, and there is not legislation that allows a board to currently renew that.
Okay, so then that one will end in the 10 years, okay. All right, but the legislature, I just have to say this, the legislator can't put in a law that's unconstitutional, so there's that, and it's a binding contract. That was a binding contract between the voters and the board. And it's like the contract should have ended, and it didn't because the board voted to extend it. There's no law that's a law that's unconstitutional. It doesn't matter what it is. It has to align with the Constitution. So that wasn't a voter approved levy, and it should be taken off as not a voter approved levy. It should be a board approved levy.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing your opinion. Appreciate it. All right, next up we have our reports and discussions. And first up we have our student reports. Sorry, taking a while to load. First up we have Student Representative Henson.
All right, good evening, everybody. Starting off with Kennedy, they had a very exciting month. Starting December, they did 10 Days of Giving, which students donated food to Hastings Family Service to ensure that no person goes hungry over the winter, which I think is very nice. And then multiple students get creative through beautiful art that is gorgeous. And then the third grade students had an author visit from Christine Conlon. They learned about the life of an author and then the works that go into writing, which is awesome. And then we talked a little bit about that STEM grant, which I think is pretty cool. And then the fourth graders and their focus group had a visit from the superintendent, which I personally love that. And then there's a picture of that right there, which is super cute. And then they had a Carpenter Nature Center visit. The fourth graders took that visit, and then they learned about survival situations. And then that was sponsored by Wendy Loomis and Karen Egberg. And you can see them hiding in their little survival fortress, which is super cute. And then they had a Sea Life visit, which is super cool. I used to work at Sea Life, so it was fun seeing these pictures. And that's them holding a stingray tail, and then them at the touch pool area. There's just more pictures. And then the Science Museum came to visit the kids at the school. They taught the fourth graders about paleontology. And then that looks like just a little demonstration with like a dinosaur in a tree. And then at Tilden, they had a very fun visit from Climb Theater, and then they demonstrated how to be a preschool student in self-regulation. And then they're reading a little book right there. And then the students created a thankful turkey in Miss Mitchell's class.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right, and on to Student Representative Durfee's report.
Good evening. Okay, starting off with McAuliffe Elementary, December 5th, they started the month off strong. The first grade students are having a blast learning to code with the Bluebot robots, as we heard. completing mazes designed by their classmates. December 12th, the kindergartners got festive, making gingerbread houses out of milk cartons with their grandparents and or loved ones. December 19th, the kindergartners have an exciting visit coming up from the Pleasant Hill Library. December 22nd, winding down towards break, the students are getting a very special treat from our HHS Jazz Band, who will be performing a concert for them. And then finally, to kick off break, on December 23rd, the students are ending their last day of school with a fun game of winter bingo, and I'm super jealous. These photos right here were from the STEM students learning to code with their blue bots. And then Pinecrest has a very busy month this month, December 1st to 10th. In the spirit of the season of giving, Pinecrest absolutely crushed their 10 days of giving, raising 2,925 pounds of food, and they earned themselves a Culver's party. I also was noted that they raised $610. December 4th, the 4th grade students were visited by members of the HHS band to explore a variety of woodwind instruments during their music class. December 5th, the Minnesota Twins mascot joined the Pinecrest to provide a program called TC Strikeout Plan. TC Bear taught students the importance of breathing exercises and how to manage their mental health with a 3-step plan called Notice It, Name It, Share It, which is super important. And then December 17th, the 3rd graders took a field trip to the Children's Theater. December 18th is finally the Culver's Party, which Culver's celebrated Pinecrest for raising the most among the 3 elementary schools for the Hastings Family Service. December 18th and 19th is the Grandparents' Day for the kindergarten students, and they are making gingerbread houses to celebrate the holidays. December 19th, the 4th grade field trip to the classic Nutcracker at O'Shaughnessy Street, Catherine University will take place. And then December 22nd is the choir holiday show for parents. And then also December 22nd, choir, jazz band, and spiral singers get to provide a show for the Pinecrest students and staff. Here are some pictures of all of the food and produce that the Pinecrest students raised, and then our HHS Jazz Band visiting Pinecrest for their music class.
Awesome. Thank you. Any questions?
Nice. Well done.
All right. And then on to Student Representative Suarez Garcia.
Okay, so for the high school, this month at the high school, the Raiders Refuel Crew was started. This is a group of our special education students who go around delivering coffee and other beverages to the teachers, along with the occasional snack. This is a great opportunity for these kids to learn useful job skills. Also, the website, specifically the high school portion, has been revamped to highlight the pathways, making it easily accessible for parents but also students, allowing them to dig deeper into different routes post-high school. And then for the arts, this month, it was really crazy for art students. There was 2 concerts that showed their festive spirit. The band and orchestra students had their concert on 12/9. That was the last Tuesday, and it was like a snowstorm. It was horrible. Hopefully everyone got there safe. I was there all day because I didn't want to drive home and then drive back for it. But my little sister played in it, and it was great. And yeah, it was a blast. And then the choir concert was Saturday. It's always super long for choir kids because we had to do 2 concerts back to back. But it's always fun, and I'm gonna miss it because it's my last year doing it. But it's good. It's definitely a fun experience. And then some extracurriculars. Winter sports are underway. We have 12 different Hastings High School sports and 1 adapted cooperative sport. We do host a holiday basketball tournament in 2 weeks for boys and girls, which is great for our community. And we have sports like wrestling, boys hockey, and girls hockey that all play in and out of town holiday events during the upcoming holiday break. Also, our Knowledge Bowls first team is doing really well to start off the season to start the season off with a 7th place finish at their first meet this year, which is insanely good for Knowledge Bowl, especially because the top around, if you're in that bracket, almost every single person who was above us, I'm on the team for that, went to state last year, which is it's really good to be up there. That's way better than we were last season, and we're hopefully gonna make a good run this year. And then lastly, youth and government students are getting ready for an exciting convention next month. Okay, now the ALP. So they had their annual Thanksgiving celebration. The ALP celebrated its annual Thanksgiving tradition Thanksgiving tradition, on the day before Thanksgiving, festivities began with turkey bingo, a favorite activity among students. Each turkey bingo winner received a custom-made hat constructed by Mr. K. In addition, the ALP staff provided a full turkey feast, serving over 50 students and staff members. There was an abundance of food, ensuring that all attendees were served and able to enjoy the celebration. And there are some photos from that, some hats, and then the college and career readiness, some campus visits. The ALP completed its first campus visit of the school year with a trip to Dakota County Technical College, or DCTC. The ALP also aims to provide 2 to 3 campus visits each year to support students' post-secondary planning. These visits intentionally focus on 2-year technical and community college, as the majority of HAHS students who pursue post-secondary education typically enroll in institutions other than 4-year universities. And then lastly, Hastings Online Academy, HOA. The Hastings Online Academy remains very active this year. HOA is currently serving a total of 70 online students, including 27 full-time students and 43 part-time students. Early enrollment data for semester 2 indicates continued growth, with 37 full-time students enrolled and 39 part-time students enrolled. HOA continued to provide flexible learning options to meet the diverse needs of students across the district. And
Awesome. Thank you.
So that's my report.
All right, any questions? Okay, thank you. And then unfortunately, Student Representative Banky can't be here tonight, so keep going.
Okay, so Jen reported on the middle school, and this is some things that she had to note. So for the Hastings Middle School, on December 8th and 9th, the middle school had one of its scholastic book fairs. Many students were awarded Level Up Awards this week for their excellence in and outside of the classroom, and I believe those are pictures of those students. And then students can audition for the winter play, How to Get Away with Murder, this week. Today, students were able to get involved with some school spirit with a Whoville dress-up day. Hastings Middle School has been invited by Dakota County and Public Arts Advisory Committee to help promote the 2026 Dakota County Students Art Contest. This annual event celebrates young artists across the country, and we encourage our HMS students to showcase their creativity. Students can submit designs until late March. On December 23rd, the students will have Jingle Bingo, where parents have the option to donate wish list items. And that's a wrap.
Thank you. And this right here tells me exactly why I feel tremendously busy as a parent in December, right? Lots going on in our schools, lots of fun stuff. So thank you, students, for all your great information. Appreciate it. Next up, we have our superintendent report.
Thank you. So I would like to also reiterate all the opportunities to see wonderful concerts and activities our kids are in, all the sports. I too was at all the band concerts, and I was at the concert on Saturday. And I have to tell you, this Mr. Warren doesn't know I'm doing this, but I went up to him a couple months ago, went and visited him, see how he's doing. And I said, I'm so excited to hear this choir. I said, do you know Wartburg Choir? I was there my freshman year. I sang in choirs, all this stuff. And he's like, yeah, I know the director there. And the world just keeps getting smaller. And I said, well, you have to go to Christmas at Wartburg because it's so awesome and it's just great. And, they plan their entire calendar around this. And he's like, I've not gotten there yet, but I know I've heard it's just outstanding. So I go Saturday. And I'm just impressed with every number that keeps happening. And I'm just so excited. And I'm almost like wanting to cry because I'm not at Christmas at Wartburg this year. And all of a sudden, the kids come down the aisles for that final song. And we get to sing with them. And we get to sing Silent Night. And that's exactly what happens at Christmas at Wartburg. Mm-hmm. And it took everything I had not to just want to just stand up and, cheer. And I can tell you that the performance is collegiate level.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic.
It is collegiate level. So congratulations to all of the performers. The jazz band, outstanding. That was another thing I was in, I love so much. So anyway, I just want to say to all of our community, please go to these events. You are missing out if you don't go. I'm inviting my family, my sisters, I'm inviting them next year because they have to see this. So I just want to say, I have to reiterate, wonderful things happening. I would also say, too, I'm excited about, you can see the grants that were given and you can see the opportunities our kids are going to have for being outside in the learning environment. I'm really excited to see where this goes for our elementary kids also with the prairie that's going to be started at Kennedy, there will be opportunities for our high school students to come over through horticulture classes, et cetera, and participate in learning opportunities there as well. So this is a district-wide, really, opportunity. Depending on what happens with Pinecrest and McAuliffe with their outdoor classrooms, there may be opportunities where we do little small mini field trips where they can come over as well. So there's a lot of plans in our future to see where this goes. And I feel, to me, that aligns beautifully with our pathways. As you can see, our middle school grants that were awarded align nicely with some of the pathways that are happening. We will be looking at that work more explicitly next year on that middle school alignment to high school. I've been thinking a lot, talking to a lot of different teachers and leadership around what is our vision for the next 3 to 5 years. We need to start to maybe tap down on some things. It's coming to us. We have some good things started. I'm really excited to see what our future is. So that's kind of my report. I would love to say happy holidays to everyone out there. I'm excited for kids to have a little bit of a break, although as you can see, many are in tournaments, and so I don't really know how much of a break they'll get, but we've had a really good start to our year, and so I want to thank everyone for that, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Yeah. You do know that Peace is it's a tradition, right? So we do it every single year. So every person who is in choir that goes through Hastings, I mean, you just talk about the closing song and I get the chills because and to have, I mean, I think it's special to have son of Lynn Warren now directing. So it's like the legacy on the choir level, and then there's also the legacy on the instructor in front of you. And it's really emotional. So I second how amazing our choir was. Yeah.
I have to say one other thing. I was just at 5th grade and 6th grade last night. They were awesome. They were incredible. And I said, that's why high school's so great, is because we start young. And the level of education that's happening with how they're learning how to sing is amazing. And so we really have good things happening here. And it was just wonderful. And I thank everybody for their hard work for that.
Yeah, it's awesome. And if folks haven't gone to the band and orchestra, the holiday band and orchestra, it is something to see. The entire stage is packed with students. The sides of the stage are packed with students. In front of the stage is packed with students, and you have 3 conductors going at the same time to conduct the final song, which is amazing. It was Sleigh Ride this year, and it was fantastic. Anyway, on with other business. It's a lot of fun, right? Talking about all the concerts and everything.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have our Building Construction Fund project update with Ms. Subert.
Thank you. So just a quick reminder that the Building Construction Fund accounts for the money the district received from the voter-approved bonds for school renovations and improvements. We continue to work on closing out these final projects. They do take time, though, to make sure that all the work is done and done correctly. So we currently have a balance of about $562,000 in the fund. And the unallocated is about $404,000 of that. The only update since last month was the interest that was earned, and we'll continue to work on closing out these projects, and then we'll make the final arbitrage payment.
All right, any questions? Thank you. Next up, we have our data request update from Ms. Moen.
Good evening. This evening, I'm happy to report we have no new data requests since the last board meeting. We do have 4 that are pending that we're working on that are in progress, and our legal bills as far as data requests this month were $639.50.
Thank you. Next, we have a presentation on paid family medical leave. Ms. Moen again.
Good evening, Chair Tate, Superintendent Weirkamp Herman, and members of the board. This evening, I have the pleasure of presenting to you on paid family medical leave. It's kind of a swear word in our office. And I will share, I'm just going to share some of the basic information about it, but I just want you to know none of us are experts. We are literally learning this. Webinars as late as 2 o'clock today, trying to just get all we can for the information regarding this law. So I'm just going to give you a highlight of the law so you kind of have an overview of it. So what is paid family leave? So the paid family leave is a state-provided benefit that kicks in on January 1, 2026, and it provides payments for a portion of an individual's base pay for qualified leave. There is a premium or a tax that's paid by the employer and the employees. In our district, we have that split 50-50. So it's a 0.88 tax, and the employee, and that's split equally. Eligibility is for payment is based on the earnings of the individual during the previous year. In order to qualify for it, they must have earned $3,900 in the previous year, but that is across all employers that they may have worked for, not just our district. The maximum benefit per week that an individual can earn is $1,423. Employees apply directly through deed for the benefit. Generally, in order to qualify for this, you would have to have a condition that lasts at least 7 days to qualify. The exception to that would be bonding, where there isn't a 7-day elimination period. And this leave can be either used consecutively or intermittently. I did provide just a snapshot of the payment calculator. Even the calculation of what they're going to pay for benefits is very difficult to figure out. So they take the first, I printed out the thing. So if you, the wages you earn between $0 and $711.50 per week, you get 90% of that towards your benefits that they're going to pay you. The next amount from $711 to $1,423, you get a 66% of that added on. And then the next level is wages above $1,423, you get 55% of that. So even just calculating what a person's going to get for benefits is it's not an easy thing. There is a calculator, which is what I have a screenshot of up there, where you can put in your information that'll give you a calculation that should get you close to what it is. The available leaves under this Paid Family Medical Leave Act, there's two portions of it. There's family leave, which covers bonding, caring leave, so care for a family member, military family leave, or the safety leave, which is kind of consistent with the ESST for the domestic abuse and those kind of safety issues. The other portion is the medical leave, which is leave for your own serious health condition. What's available under the law is up to 12 weeks of medical leave and up to 12 weeks of the family leave, not to exceed a combined 20 weeks for both. This leave is available to both spouses. So what we're finding in our district is we have paternal leaves that are being requested in increasing numbers compared to what we've had, because they can take paid leave under this family medical leave. There are employment protections that are in place. So there are job protections, which basically means we have to restore an employee to their original position that they were in when they left. In order to qualify for the job protection, you have to be employed at least 90 days with the employer. We are also required to continue the health insurance contributions, paying our portion of the insurance, the employee paying their portion. If an employee is out and is not in a paid status under the paid family leave, we would then have to make arrangements for them to pay those premiums, similar to what we would do for COBRA continuation. And then the other piece is no retaliation. We can't interfere or retaliate, and we also cannot make the employee give us their payments. There are some pretty big district impacts to this new family leave. The big one being with our substitutes. We're anticipating, we already have experienced a shortage of substitutes. We anticipate an increased shortage due in part to the number of absences that we anticipate having a significant increase in number of absences. The length of leaves that people were on, if you remember under FMLA, they had a total of 12 weeks and a couple combined couldn't exceed 12. Now they each get up to the 20. So that, and when you have employment where you have two spouses employed by the same employer, it has a potential double impact for us. We have a lot of that in our district. The other pieces, if there are individuals who had a child during 2025, they are able to take leave in 2026 for leave for that child. Even if they already took 12 weeks in 2025, they're eligible for leave again under the PFML. We did anticipate the increased sub-costs as we were doing the budgeting process. As Jen did her budget, we did increase that budget line by $500,000 in hopes of trying to at least offset most or some of that cost. And we do expect an increase in our collapsed classroom and loss of prep coverage where we have individuals covering inside the district for each other. The other piece would be increased workload. You have staff that will be covering, if there's not subs available, you have those collapsed classrooms and people picking up additional work. We are also required, Deed does unemployment, who also is handling all of the PFML processing. They get the applications to Deed, but then they turn around and submit requests to us for every leave to provide them data on the individuals who requested leave. Excuse me. So that's additional work that didn't take place before. We also are, as I said earlier, we're expecting an increase in the number of leaves that we usually take. And because you now have to coordinate ESST, FMLA, PFML, district paid leaves, the meetings and the conversations with individual staff members requesting leave take significantly longer to try to get through all that information and explain. The coordination and tracking of these leaves, we already track FMLA because there's a max of 12 weeks. You now have to track FMLA separate from the PFML. And our district leaves go through the system, but it's another piece that has to be tracked. And then the time for calculation of payroll, leaves, and top off. So you'll see on the agenda there was, we have some MOUs going for top off of, to allow top off for PFML. That is, we are one of, I would say we're the minority of districts who are allowing top off, so we're going to be guinea pigs in the process. But it's going to take some work to figure out what an employee is getting from Deed, and then what we need to top off as far as leaves and calculate the pay without exceeding 100% of their pay. So we will need to wait for information from Deed to tell us what they're getting so we can figure out what we need to pay them. And then the district MOUs I talked about already. We do have there's some pretty significant notice requirements. We started back in August. We were required by December 1st, 30 days prior to the implementation, to provide notice to our employees about the benefits that would be available. We actually put this in our Safe Schools training back in August when staff came back to work as one of the modules. We also began at that time putting it in our new hire packet. So all of our new hires as we've gone along have already been notified as part of the hiring process. And then I sent an email out on December 1st just as a follow-up reminder, reminding people of the leaves. We again gave them the notice requirements, the legally required one. I have a snapshot of a district developed handout that we developed. We actually worked with the teachers union as we did negotiations to try to put something together that would be easy for staff to understand. So this gives you the 3 columns. You can't see them on the clearly up there. It's got the PFML, the FMLA, and then ESST. It explains what the different leaves types are, what's available under each of those leave types, the qualifying reasons, who's covered, and how much you get each year. So our hope was that this would be a snapshot that would be easy for staff, and then we put links right to the HR team at the bottom so they can access help right from the bottom of it. And then the other piece we started at the same time is a frequently asked questions. So in the email, I provided a link, and as we do meetings with staff and as we get questions, we'll continue to just add the Q&A so people have an ongoing updated resource for what we know and what we're learning as we go. So that is PFML in a nutshell. I can answer questions if you have them.
I do have a question. So am I right that they can, it's all 3 of these that they can layer on each other?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
So PFML is a paid absence. FMLA is an unpaid absence. FMLA is 12 weeks. PFML is 12 plus 12, not more than 20. And then ESST is, we've made our sick leave a combined sick/ESST. And those all, depending upon what you're eligible for, can be layered.
So when are we going to know how this interacts with our budget? Is it going to be a while still?
Well, this first 6 months, we start January now, so we'll have the first 6 months, which we can kind of see what's happened with that first 6 months. This first year is going to be kind of a double hit because we've got the people from 25 also eligible. So I don't know if we know in a single year until we get through the second year.
Okay. Sounds good. Just makes me raise questions about.
Can you go into the top off thing a little bit more and just provide like what's the rationale for doing that and what does it really mean, please?
So the top off is allowing a staff member to, whatever their compensation is that they're getting from DEED for the PFML, they're allowed to top off using district accrued leave that they have banked. The MOUs that we have in place are for the exempt employees, we are requiring the use of half-a-day increments to top off their leave. So regardless of what it takes to do that, it's a half-a-day of leave to top off as long as they don't need more than a half a day to get full pay. And then our hourly employees, we did a top off of 2-hour increments. So they have to use at least 2 hours of leave to cover the differences to get to that 100% compensation.
And I just want to make sure, so the PMFL, that is open to any employee at all. All they have to earn is the 3,900 and whatever in the previous year. And what kind of notice do they have to give when they're using this kind of leave?
They're supposed to give, I believe it's 30 days notice or as much as they can. They are required by DEED. They actually fill out an application when they apply for DEED. I actually set up an account to go in and try to do it just to see what it was. When they asked for my driver's license, I backed out and said, never mind, I'm not doing the rest of this. But there is a lot of questions that they ask when they do that piece. And one of them is whether they're going to have a top off of benefits or not. So there's an application process. Then DEED will let them know if they're approved. DEED in their questions asks them, have you notified the employer? And then when we get the question that we went through today on some of them, that does say, did you notify your employer? And then they ask us, did they notify you? So hopefully that will help. We also put in the MOU a requirement that so when you apply, you get a certification that you applied. We required in the MOUs that within 48 hours of getting that certification, the employee provide that to us so that we can make sure what they asked DEED for and what they're telling us they asked for are the same.
And this is open to every employee every single year, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. I think this is a dirty word for most business owners in this state right now. So, yeah. All right. Yes, Dr. Zuzek.
When you consider what DEED is doing when they get the application from the teacher, would you describe that process as being really judicious, or are they just confirming that the person qualifies?
To be honest, I haven't seen the actual application of what they're filling out past the initial information where I had to enter my personal information. So I don't know exactly what's being asked on there. We did, when we went in today, we were able to get to, we have 2 people that have already been approved that had babies in 25 that are taking leave in 26. And they get a notice of determination that tells them, this is your weekly wages that we considered. We actually were able to see the wages from all their employers, what they earned from those employers, what the weekly benefit they calculated and they're going to get is, which is what we will then use to figure out what do we calculate as their full wages and the difference to top off. But I do believe it is, based on the short amount I did, I think there's a pretty lengthy process to apply.
Are each of the multiple employers, if an employee has a couple of jobs, are each of the multiple employees responsible for some portion of the payment?
I believe so.
Okay.
Actually, the tax is spread across everybody, so everybody's paying the tax.
Yeah, and then it comes from DEED.
Regardless, yeah.
When you look at the salary that one would have to get to, the maximum, the 88%, then 66 and 55, almost every teacher would have a salary such, if they're a full-time teacher, they'd have a salary such that they would get to the full-time. or the full, the broadest benefit, I think.
Yeah.
Just when I
don't-
did the back of the matchbook math on that chart.
Yeah, I actually put in just our BA zero salary
Yeah.
and calculated off of 50,000 and went through the process. And when we took all the breakdowns and got to the end number, it was about 83% of their base wages is what they were getting from
Yeah.
PFML.
Yeah, that's what I was, instead of 88, or,
Yeah, I mean,
Got it.
I was just picking around 50,000, so
Yeah.
it wasn't an exact number off our schedule, but just to get the scenario, what does it look like?
Yep, that's what I was thinking too. Thank you.
Another quick question. How does it interact with the summer? Like if they have a child over the summer, or like how, if they don't take it in the summer, they take it during the school, like how does it interact with that?
An employee can get PFML in the summer, even though they're not being paid, because the wages we're paying are for wages earned during the school year. So they can still file for PFML benefits in the summer in addition to the PMFL they're getting on there, as long as it doesn't exceed that max.
Any other questions? Yep, Director Dressley.
So then on top of the district pays for the insurance, we would also be paying insurance and wages for the subs that we'd have to fill those spots with, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so if anyone is looking for a subbing job, now's a good time to consider, especially after January 1st.
We did meet with Kelly Services to say, what are you doing to prepare? Because we want to know that you're out there doing some extra work to try to get extra pools. And so far, we have good fill rates this year. We'll see how well they're due once this really hits full bore with all the districts.
Sure. All right, thank you. It wasn't very uplifting, I gotta be honest.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, appreciate the information though. Next up, we have our delegate assembly summary. And if folks noticed, before this weekend, my handwritten notes were attached in Boardwalk, and then MSBA sent out a fabulous, much nicer looking version of the summary. So for folks who aren't aware, the delegate assembly is where voted upon delegates go and hang out for an evening and a day to talk about resolutions that have been voted on by all of the school districts across the state. And it's basically the delegates vote on what is going to be sent to the legislature via MSBA's lobbying efforts. So what do we want to see happen at the legislative level for this next year? So Director Zuzik, Director Dressley, and myself were 3 delegates there out of 118 delegates from across the state were there. And up in front of you, you have a list of the 36 resolutions that were discussed and voted on. And I can say that Hastings, I believe we were by far the biggest contributor of resolutions this year. And so you can see we are part of resolution number 3, which passed, and that is ensuring school districts have adequate time to plan and prepare for the financial and operational impact of new laws and regulations. Resolution number 4, which passed, and that is regarding when new mandates are created that they must include a full fiscal note to understand the full impact. Number 6 was also a Hastings one that passed, and that was investing in career pathways and technical education, basically ensuring that they abide by the laws that are already in place. Resolution number 7 was one that Hastings put forward as well, and this was fully and permanently funding unemployment insurance for hourly school workers. Resolution number 10 did not pass. That was the one that was repealing Q-Comp and putting it into the general fund. I argued in favor of this one, and the truth is I thought it was going to fail. There were about half of schools right now get QComp funds, and there are, is it 27, 29 of us that are on the wait list and have been for years. MSBA has been advocating for 11 years now to open up more funding to fund QComp and to expand the number of schools that it's offered to, and the legislature hasn't done that yet. So this was my attempt at another approach. And like I said, as I suspected, it failed. The schools who get QComp definitely don't want to give it up, right? So it's a tough sell. So that one was the only one of ours that did not pass.
And let me just mention, the districts that did get QComp, they spoke in favor of it, but of course they still voted against it, so.
Yeah, they voted in favor of the resolution. They voted in favor of repealing QComp. Yeah, there were some arguments made about really the metrics on that are difficult to prove, for one. And then the ones that they are able to track it, they said that the results are mixed. So it's just basically that half of the school districts in the state are getting extra funding and half aren't. So resolution number 23 is another one that Hastings had signed on to. That one also passed, and that is authorizing candidates to omit addresses from campaign materials. Number 29 was another one that Hastings put forward, and that was amending earned safe and sick time, or sick and safe time mandate to redefine family member to make it a little bit more clear, because right now it is a pretty expansive list of people that you can use your ESST for. Resolution number 31 was also put forward by Hastings, and that was regarding allowing public school district employers and district collective bargaining units the ability to opt out of Minnesota paid leave that we just walked through, and if not able to bargain an opt-out agreement, a 50-50 employer-employee contribution shall be implemented. And that is all that Hastings signed on to. So that's all. There's a lot. So we did well. The assembly went very well, and I think it was a great experience again. So any other input from my other delegates?
Just Tuesday, I think it is, we got a letter from MSBA. All of us did, the monthly newsletter, and it highlighted the delegate assembly. And one of the 5 things that it talked about was the timeliness of school funding and how critical that is. So I think that it's of interest to me that one of the political advisors that works for MSBA, Denise, had commented that that one just makes too much sense to actually pass the legislature, which we'll wait and see.
There was one other thing that I wanted to mention that I found was very interesting. I want to say last year there were maybe 2 resolutions that passed unanimously, right? There's always somebody in the room. Out of 118 people, you're always going to find somebody who doesn't want to sign on to something. This year there were, 9 out of the 36 were passed unanimously, which was pretty shocking. And of those, I will say 4 of them were ours. So, pretty cool. All right. Anything else on delegate assembly? We're good? Good. All right.
Hey, while we're talking about MSBA, just a quick acknowledgement. Clerk Milner, Melissa Milner, is being recognized for your leadership and MSBA, getting all 4 phases of your training done. So congratulations to you. I hope you're going to the dinner.
Thank you for that recognition. That's really nice of you. Thank you.
Congrats. No, you're good. All right, next into our school board committee reports and liaison reports. First up, ISD 917 with Director Zuzik.
Real quick, it was that really cruddy Tuesday night, and so we did not end up recognizing the licensed and non-licensed employees of the semester at 917, that meeting. We're going to do it in January. And then the only big news to share, and it's good news, but one more year, just like Hastings, that district is very well managed financially, and we had a clean audit the same company does the auditing for 917 that works for us in Hastings.
Awesome, thank you. Next up, we've got AMSD with Director Bruns.
Yeah, there were a lot of materials that came out of this meeting. It was pretty robust. I'll direct your attention to some of the work around referendums, just going over the results statewide. Very successful, so whatever the narrative was around them. So a greater than supermajority passed through their voting process. The platform for this legislative session was adopted. Some highlights reflect conversations that we're having at this table all the time. So they're addressing school safety and adding funding, per pupil funding, to that process. Stabilizing compensatory funding, so maintaining some of that hold harmless language. Modernizing fund distribution, and then maximizing local control and some of those state statutes that eliminate that from our hands. In the connections issue, it's interesting to look at that and look at what Farmington is doing and seeing the parallels there. So it is definitely something that everyone is walking down and understanding the benefit of that for students. They also highlight just challenges around recruitment and retention of staff. They do a deep dive on teachers of color, but the one stat that I think is really powerful, and it is reflective of the last 10 years, is that first-year teachers leave within the first 5. That'd be, 33% of them. So when you think about where we need to drive our attention, it's that the first 5 years when it comes to onboarding and induction into the organization.
Thank you. Next up, we've got Community Collaboration Committee update with Director Milner.
All right, so our next event will be held Monday, January 12th from 6 to 7:30 in the middle school cafeteria. And we are going to be doing a deep dive in the school perception survey. So for everyone out there, if you want to come find out what our students, what our staff, and what the community parents are saying, it's going to be a great time to dive in and see what's happening and how we use that information. So what kinds of things are we going to do to use that information for the betterment of our students? On top of that, we tentatively also have another meeting planned for the 1st of April. And then the committee will meet on the 28th of January to get the feedback from the community from the January 12th meeting. So I just urge everybody in the community who's interested in what's happening in our schools to come. It's going to be a really great interactive time to give us feedback, listen to what's happening. It's just going to be a really great time to engage and become active in what's happening in our schools.
Thank you. Next up, we've got our Finance Committee report from Director Zizek.
Two big things were discussed. We talked about the adjustments to the budget, the mid-year budget adjustment, and the timing was a little bit peculiar because we actually had a presentation at this table prior to the meeting, and so the discussion that we had on Friday was a little bit more in-depth, and then that transitioned well into a conversation about, upcoming levies and what will the process look like for those levies, and the timeliness of it. Our next meeting is to be determined, but it's likely going to be in February, and it will be on Thursdays. We're going to be switching our meetings to Thursdays instead of Fridays, but the date isn't picked yet.
All right, thank you. And just a reminder too, for folks who don't know, our January 5th organizational meeting is coming up, and that's when we will possibly reshuffle committee members, reshuffle things, right? That's when we vote on all that stuff. So a lot of things are up in the air for next year until that all those decisions have been made. Next up, we have our NAPAC committee update from Director Bruns.
Yeah, good evening. It's always funny with AMSD and then NAPAC, they occur so much earlier in the month by the time we get to the regular board meeting. So revisiting the past work is always kind of joyful. When it comes to NAPAC itself, old business, some of the bylaws were just rewritten and then approved so that decisions could be arrived upon on more of a consensus basis and maybe not so concerned about having just really being able to navigate individual calendars when you think about a committee of anywhere from 8 to 15 on a given night and being able to do those things with enough folks, but getting through that. We did advertise the community collaboration event that will occur on January 12th. talked about Cyan is our new Native American education liaison, and she's absolutely walking right into it. She's doing such a good job of feeling out what was successful before and then collaborating across districts and what are you doing that might be different. So there's more from her within this, but it was just exciting to announce that not only was she hired, but she was already hitting the ground running. Director Hodges was there from Teaching and Learning and highlighted that 70% of students who are identified as Native American receive reading intervention, and all targeted through FastBridge and other sub-screeners. What's been promising in the intervention process is that 90% of kindergartners at Kennedy are showing better than expected growth on those interventions. And it's not like the other two are lagging far behind. 80% of students at McAuliffe and Pinecrest achieving greater than expected results. So it's really promising that the interventions that we've selected are working and that there's a review process for, is this effective, is it not, who is it effective for, who's slipping through the cracks and who's really excelling in this. I talked about the ELA curriculum review, the science curriculum review beginning at the elementary level, and then trialing, moving 3rd and 4th grade students away from iPads and towards Chromebooks. This is something that we already have on hand. It would be substantially less expensive, and also better prepare students for the work that they do with technology, where iPads interact with apps and learning apps really well, but they're not as generalizable for skills that kids will use across different platforms. But Cyan Peacock is doing wonderful work. So she's developed goals and strategies for herself and then seeking feedback on that. And I think that's really powerful when you begin with the end in mind. Where do I want to be at the end of the year? And then seeking feedback and sometimes saying like, that is a really healthy goal. Like I want that to be the goal, but it might exist down here somewhere first. But the goals are really well developed. She's established the Native Club at the middle school, having 2 meetings already, because we do a lot of work at the high school level to help folks graduate and get really connected, but the earlier we can intervene and provide connection and support, the less likely we have to do that. Mm-hmm. So as soon as we can get connected and build those family relationships, the better for us as a school. It just takes less resources if you're already connected and succeeding at a younger age. The graduation ceremony, which is always really killer, May 12th, 2026 at the high school, Be There or Be Square. They have 11 seniors they're tracking so far. They are rocking some MTSS work to make sure folks are on track to graduate, but as a high school case manager, that can be, the spring can be a crazy time when you're trying to get those credits out and tease them out of anywhere. Our next meetings are January 8th, February 5th, and then we have spring TNET consultations, February 23rd to the 26th at Treasure Island.
Thank you. And there have been no student school board committee meetings since last month.
But I do have a request I'd like to request that we schedule a student school board committee meeting with the current students sometime in January before we start looking at the process of the new students coming. So just a request that maybe we can get that on the books.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you. And then finally, policy committee.
So this month, the policy committee met on December 12th. Since the 3 policies presented for first reading include substantial revisions, the detailed rationales are included in the committee discussions, but I'm not going to read through all of them nor the changes. The changes are available in board book. I'll just go ahead and give everyone an opportunity to, if they have questions about policy 520, student surveys, 807, health and safety, or 903, Community Education Advisory Council. I'm sorry, 901. Does anybody got any questions or comments? Those are our first readings.
Brief comment. A brief comment that student survey one we've been working on for months. I mean, to get it to where it is. So we're proud to get it to the table today.
16 months.
Yeah.
But it's here now for first reading. So, well, if nobody's got any questions for these, then there are no changes to any second or third reading policies. Does anybody have any questions about any of the ones on the agenda? All right, well then, that's all I have for tonight. Our next meeting, tentative meeting, is the 8th of January at noon.
All right, thank you. Next up, we have our revised budget discussion. And I know the board received quite a bit of information at our work session last week about the revised budget, which is why we didn't initially have it on as a discussion item, but thought it was appropriate to add that into a recorded session as well. So, welcome back, Jen.
All right, so tonight I'm going to go through a summary of the revised budget. The full packet of our budget is available on our website. Basically, for this presentation, I'm just using some screenshots out of that full packet. We will first look at the changes to the budget from adopted to revised, and we're looking at the general fund unassigned. So we had adjusted pupil units. Once students actually got into school, we update those numbers. So in the adopted, we had 4,275. In the revised budget, we're increasing it to 4,318. So it's an increase of 43 students. As we compare that to our prior year final, it is still a decrease, but not as large as we had anticipated. So there is some additional revenue that goes with that increase in the number of students in the amount of about $414,000. Our state special ed aid budget has been updated to $12 million. This is an increase of $670,000, and it's based on two things. First, just knowing more about what we actually got for revenue last fiscal year. And then second, we made a change in how we're using some of our revenue in an effort to maximize our state revenue. So our tuition, we're using more of our federal dollars to pay up for our tuition, which should help us earn some additional state special ed revenue. Our interest budget was updated to 1.2 million, so that was an increase of 400,000. The hourly worker unemployment between terms has now been added to our budget. $280,000 is what we'll receive in this year for costs last year. Federal special education, there's an adjustment of about $89,000, revenues equal to expenditures. So you'll see that when we talk about expenditures also. Title 1, 2, and 3, again, revenues equal to expenditures. So an increase of about $62,000. We did get a cybersecurity grant, approximately $34,000 that we used to pay for some of our cyber insurance. And then high school athletics miscellaneous revenues were increased by $15,000, offset again within the expenditures. Paraprofessional training increased by $14,000, offset within our expenditures, and then just all other revenues about $3,000. So our overall revenue budget increased $1.9 million. As we look through the expenditures, the biggest piece for our district is always the payroll benefit calc, and that had a decrease of about 3.38 FTE, and that mostly related to some positions that we were unable to fill with employees, so we contracted them out. So you're going to see the offset of that in just a little bit. But then at the same time, we update all of our new hires from estimates to actuals. Once we know what where they're placed on the salary schedule and what they're taking for benefits, all of that is updated. All teachers have been updated to the proposed settlement. So later in the agenda tonight is approving the new teacher's contract that has been already adjusted and worked into this revised budget. And then paraprofessionals, we are still working with them, so those are still estimates. The substitute costs were overall, that payroll benefit annual calc was a decrease of about $278,000. But then our substitute costs were increasing by $500,000, directly back to what Director Moen had already talked to related to the paid family medical leave. Our special ed unfilled positions that we took out of that payroll benefit calc and just moved them to contracted positions, an increase of $402,000. Hourly worker unemployment between terms, $290,000 increase. That's what we're expecting our cost to be this year. Our transportation increase of about $93,000, and that's general and special ed. Federal special ed, just the offset to the revenues that we talked about. The leases, so we did have an increase in the ice arena lease. We are renting some space for gymnastics that qualifies under our leases. And then 917 had a change in their DCTC lease. So that's an increase of about $76,000. Title 1, 2, and 3, again, just offsetting the revenue that we talked about. Some special ed expenditures, just based on prior year actual expenditures, we increased by about $53,000. Our maintenance department expenditures increasing by about $33,000. And then all other is about $24,000. The high school athletics offsetting that revenue we already talked about. Same with the paraprofessional training. And then our building supply budget changes. So those are updated with the revised budget every year. And we look at the enrollment to ensure that we're allocating out the correct amount. So we did those adjustments. And then they also added a culinary class that we added a supply budget for. There was an audit entry for the subsequent year's expenditures. So when the adopted budget was approved, it was overspending by that $908,000. So as part of our audit, we're required to essentially set that money aside out of the previous year to be used in this year. So you can see that's decreasing our expenditures. And then some of our tuitions for like care and treatment, PSEO, and college and schools, we're decreasing that budget by $90,000 based on prior year expenditures. And then within our safe schools, there is the proration of the school resource officer that wasn't available to start with the district until January. And then there was an increase in the crossing guards, again, just based on prior year expenditure. So overall, that's a decrease of $47,000. And then our liability insurance and workers' comp, we have actual numbers now. So those have been updated, and it was a decrease of $30,000. So our total budget, our total expenditure budget increase was $305,000. So the net is $1.677 million. So then as we look at our fund balances and our school board policy, we have some different categories of fund balance. So we have restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned. And I'll go through these in more detail, but if you just kind of watch that 25-26 net, you can see within restricted, we're overspending by about $432,000. The committed is to the good, about $38,000. The assigned is overspending $1.5 million. The unassigned is a positive $768,000. So our total general fund budget, we're overspending by about $1.1 million. And then I did, just as a reminder, list the fund balance policy. So we have an unassigned fund balance policy that states we'll have a minimum of 2 months or 16% of operating expenses. And that would be about $12 million. And our projected unassigned fund balance is about $19 million. So we continue to try to plan for some future funding changes that we know are coming our way. And we'll talk in more detail about those. But then as we look at the different categories of accounts, the first one is the non-spendable or the restricted accounts. And for all of these accounts, there are legal constraints. They're restricted by statute as far as what we can use those dollars for. And I'll just kind of highlight some of the bigger ones within that net budget column. So the staff development, you can see we're spending that down by about $139,000, and that was a planned spend down as part of our budget adjustments. Within the operating capital, that one is overspending by about $264,000, and we do have $400,000 budgeted within that one for the gymnastics facility that we're still working through. And then the MA, or third-party billing, is a positive of about $70,000, but we do have 2 vans that we're planning to replace in 26-27, and that would be about $100,000. The committed accounts, so these are established by school board action, and we have 2. We have one for pension and the accumulated sick leave, and then we have one for technology. The pension and accumulated sick leave is determined by an actuarial study. It's always a 2-year study, so we already had that in place for 24-25 and 25-26. The assigned accounts, these are accounts that are set up with a specific intent. And you can see that first one is that subsequent year's expenditure. So we're spending that $900,000 that we had to set aside. Right now we have within the site improvements, we have $400,000 budgeted again for gymnastics. And then the other accounts were just kind of planfully spending down. The one I'll highlight is the STEM for elementary. We've heard a lot about STEM tonight, but we did set up an account to fund those staffing positions. So we're spending down half of that in this year and then half of that in next year. And then the unassigned account, again, this one, there is an increase of the $768,000, but that's really because we set aside that $900,000 in the previous year. Otherwise, we would have been overspending. And then just kind of keeping in mind that once we get to that 26-27 adopted budget, if that one is overspending, we'll have to do that same audit entry, which will then affect this ending fund balance. So then just a few other things to look at. Enrollment, if you kind of look at the 25-26 column and then that blue line and compare that then to the 26-27 column, again, the blue line, you can see that we are continuing to anticipate a decrease in enrollment. And for that one, I'll just kind of highlight, in 25-26, our graduating class is 377. But in 26-27, our incoming kindergarten class is 253. So that's where the majority of our declining enrollment is coming from, our higher graduating classes versus the lower incoming classes. This next slide is on the referendum revenue. So we do have the capital project levy, and then we have 2 operating referendums, and that we kind of call it number 1 on there, but the last year of the revenue for that is fiscal year 28. And in the graph, you can see the orange is the capital projects. The blue is the operating referendum number 1. So that one's going to end in fiscal year 28. And then the gray is operating referendum number 2. So there is, because that has been voter approved under Minnesota statute 126C.17, there is the option for the board to renew it, and there is a window. So the board renewal window would be July 1 of 2025, which already passed, through June 15th, 2027. And then if the board were to choose to put it out for voter approval again, the window for that or the opportunities for that would be November of 2026 or November of 2027. The food service.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
So that's something we need to talk about is what our options are. So keep in mind, the board can renew at its current level. However, that is not at its max, that particular referendum. So we could actually go out to the voter to ask for additional revenue if we chose to. Those are the conversations we need to have. So Jen and I will be putting together different options, and we'll be talking to finance committee, and then we'll talk at work sessions, and we'll give you lots of information so that we can make an educated decision on how we'd like to move forward. Keeping in mind, if you were to determine that you want to go out to the voter, I would recommend strongly that we survey our community first to get that feeling of where we think the tolerance level is for our community before we'd actually put in all of the efforts of working through explaining to community members what it means. That's just a recommendation. So we'll be doing that work here soon, like next month, to get that ready to go. So I just want to bring that to your attention to know that's coming.
Thank you. Okay, so then as we move on to the other funds, our food service fund is projected to be overspending by about $240,000, and some of that is just that capital projects timing that was planned for last year that we're moving into this year. And then we also are working with Taher to revise the contract that we have with them. We're anticipating to bring that to the board in January, so none of those changes have really been reflected in this budget. And then as far as fund balance policy for the food service fund, it's a minimum of $100,000. So you can see our ending fund balance is still within those guidelines. And then community service fund, net budget is about $3,000, so just a little bit to the good. But again, their ending fund balance is about $223,000. The fund balance policy is a minimum of $100,000, so they're still within that policy. The building construction fund, I think this is at least the second year that I've budgeted for it to end at zero. Some of these projects are taking a long time to close out. But again, we're just really trying to make sure that the projects are completed and the work is done the way it should be. I did budget to include the arbitrage fees, and then we're just anticipating that by the end of the year, we'll have all that taken care of. The debt service fund, projected to have an ending fund balance of about $1.4 million. And we do have two outstanding bonds. So there's the 2016 school building bonds. The final payment on that is February of 2030. And then there's the 2018 school building bonds, or the capital appreciation bonds. The final payment on those is February of 2041. And then our trust funds, so our dental fund, we're projecting that our revenues would be greater than expenditures by about $56,000. And then our health self-funded would be expenditures greater than revenues by about $399,000. I'll just note on that one that I budget for what the highest anticipated amount of claims is. Historically, we've come in better than that, so we're hoping not to use fund balance. But from a budgeting perspective, I'm just always conservative with that. And then Fund 45, revenues greater than expenditures by about $488,000. And again, that's for the other post-employment benefits. And that's the end of what I have, unless there's any questions.
I do have a question. So obviously we said with the leave, the unknown of the Leave Act, right? Mm-hmm. You said we budgeted $500,000. Are there other big items that could be out there that we're just a little uncertain of? I mean, I know this is great news that we're projecting a revised budget of coming in better. But the question is, what are the unknowns that you still see out there?
Yeah, so I've tried to budget for everything that I know of for this year. So I will say there's nothing that I knowingly didn't account for. So if there's something that comes that's unexpected, there's really nothing I can do about it. I've tried to account for everything that I know of.
We put aside $1.3 million. You want to talk about those?
Yep.
Be assigned for those unexpected future.
Yep. So we did talk about this as part of audit, but for last fiscal year, we came in better than what we had planned, primarily based on interest, some unfilled positions, and then special ed funding, because we did some changes in how we were coding things to try to maximize that. So we had an opportunity to set up an assigned account for future funding changes. It has $1.3 million in it. And you can see based on this, we're not using it in this fiscal year. We're carrying it forward so that we have it going forward. And there's a list of potential funding changes. There's the unemployment, there's the changes to special ed, there's this PFML, there's a long list of things that, go ahead.
I gotta jump in on that one too. Compensatory is another one, and compensatory could be an unknown sooner than we think, because that legislation says we're only hold harmless this year. So they got to get moving on it. That's why you'll see in all the platforms going to the legislature now that they've just got the committee together now. They're starting the work to look at compensatory and how they might devise a different calculation method. If they don't get that work done by June 30th, that funding change will be very, very different for us come next year. So that hold harmless that's on the platforms of all of the major AMSD, MSB, et cetera, is super important. So when you talk to local legislators, if we get down to when we get down to the Capitol, that's got to be a really big push, because if they can't get that work done to solve that problem of how it's formulated, then they need to renew that, give us that hold harmless an additional year. So I just plant that as an unknown that we don't know about. And that summer term unemployment, you'll see that's a big one. And that is, so just know that that is an increase every year, because as we give raises every year, so does that unemployment go up so even if your staffing stays the same, that cost is going to go up. And so it's really important that the state fund that fully at the state level. It shouldn't go on local property tax owners. It needs to be fully funded at the state level. And so I just remind us all of that too.
And I know I mentioned it as part of Truth in Taxation, but the other thing out there is that Blue Ribbon Commission for Special Ed. They're tasked with cutting $250 million, which is a huge number. And if they're unable to do it, it would come out of our cross-subsidy funding. So one way or another, it's going to impact us. We just don't know exactly how yet.
Director Michael Mulder?
Yeah, so awesome that we have some future funding changes like reserve accounts, and then we've done the 500K for potential subs. Is it your opinion that, I mean, I know we're gonna be voting on the teacher contract, and we had all this information about the PFMLA. With your proposed budget, is your perspective that the next couple of years we're in good shape, in your opinion?
I mean, it is a loaded question, I'll say it that way. I will say, we have a healthy fund balance at this point, and we have continued to try to make adjustments as we've moved along year to year so that we don't put ourselves in a position where we have just a ton of adjustments to make. We do have, some of these reserve accounts set up for things, but legislatively, there's just always things that can come that are unexpected, that as much as we try to prepare for them.
Of course, there's always going to be the unexpected. But I mean, like with what we know, I mean, I know there's always going to be anxiety around the unexpected, right? But I obviously always applaud your work, and I think that you're just excellent expert, and with the help of Christine too. But I just wanted to kind of get your gauge. We're going to be approving a contract for 2 years tonight, and I just want to know we're not going to be drained. We're going to be okay for 2 years.
For 2 years, correct. And starting, in January, we'll start working very detailed through the budget projection model, and we'll start bringing that back to you guys. And there'll be many scenarios, because there's going to be things that we just don't know. So we'll do some scenarios that are really conservative. We'll do some scenarios that maybe, aren't as conservative, and then some things in between, just to start giving you guys an idea of what the next 5 years looks like.
So I'm going to interject. One thing that you have to, I'll have to remember, is that the board set up parameters for those negotiations, and that's exactly where we stayed. And I'm fully confident that that contract is a good contract for the next 2 years. I'm also, where we're fortunate as a district, is we have assigned accounts that we're doing some preparation for our near future. We also have the restricted accounts that have fund balances, where there's opportunities there if you were ever into a situation that we wouldn't necessarily have to use our unassigned fund balance. And that's key. So when you look at fund balance policy, you should have an order on the expectation of how fund balance ever do get used. And you want that unassigned fund balance to be the very last thing you have to use, and then you build that up, because it's the most versatile. And so the more you can have there, the better you are. So if you have money in professional development assigned account or a restricted account, that staff development that you want to use, that makes sense. If you spend those down, it's not as terrible as what you know what I'm saying, as to leave the unassigned alone. And so we're doing a good job in this district, and we should feel proud of ourselves. However, as Jen said, we just don't know all the things that we don't know. But I think we're making good decisions, but also trying to be innovative with our future. As we think about what's going to happen with career pathways, as we think about what we're going to do with our work, we're looking for grants, we're looking for support in every possible way. But we also have to be ready to spend a little bit sometimes if we're going to be innovative. We can't let that restrict us to the point where then we're stagnant. So we're always looking at those, and it's a big, major balancing act, and that's what we take into consideration.
And that's part of the reason why I asked, because I think you guys have a better pulse on all of the balancing act. So that's where I'm like, if I might feel anxious about XYZ, but you guys know more than we do. So to feel your confidence is kind of what I'm
And just kind of as a refresher, like as part of the audit, we talked through these, so I know I kind of quickly went through them, but there is also a curriculum assigned, and kind of talking back to some of the things that Christine or Dr. Werkamp-Herman had mentioned, that assigned account can be used to do some of those kind of innovative things around curriculum and pathways and all of those types of things. So I do think we've really tried to set ourselves up to be successful and to have some funding areas that we can fall back on when we need to.
Thank you.
What percent of funding for the given year, so the 25-26 school year, do we receive in 25-26, and what percent do we receive in 26-27?
Yeah, so it depends on the different funding sources. In general, there is like a 90-10 split.
State aid.
Yep.
So just to give some reference to this, if you don't have a fund balance that's at least as big as that gap in state aid, you may have to go out and borrow money to make payroll on money that the state already owes us.
Yeah.
I mean, so our fund balance saves us a lot of money over year after year.
It does. And there's been times, like in government shutdowns or things like that, when we're not receiving the funding in a timely manner. And again, our fund balance has saved us repeatedly.
Yeah. And so if you don't have a big enough,
All right, I have one more question. Are you working on, I'll say, in the backs of your minds, any shifting of priorities given our revised budget and how it's come up? With adding new curriculum, adding some new positions, training,
So those are in discussion. So we do have we have a curricular review cycle, and so we're looking at ELA right now and math, but ELA at the secondary. So there'll be some costs there that we can look at some ideas. We're also looking at what positions do we need, and I still come back to instructional coaches, opportunities there, because I believe that as we want to implement the READ Act, stating this new, all the training that's gone in, the ongoing coaching is going to be important to really have that stick. So we're talking about, are there opportunities for us to do that in a way that it's sustainable? But that's the other piece. You want to be really careful about using any sort of fund balance when it comes to staffing, because those are ongoing costs versus a curriculum purchase I can do. It's a one-time thing. So those are definitely conversations that we're having, and with the greater group. Around where are we headed? And that's part of that visioning too. Where do we see ourselves? How are we going to get there? And then how do we fund it?
Can we quickly comment? Will one of you please quickly comment on a new way of doing budgeting that you're looking at going forward for the 26-27 school year? A new way of building the budget instead of having it be predominantly historical. Do you see?
You talked about it in finance. About sign-offs and when you're getting to that threshold.
You talked about how they don't just move money around between looking at the bottom line. They're actually looking at their program codes.
Okay, so are you talking about like the line item budgeting?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't follow. And it's actually starting in January. So we're working with all of our budget managers to implement a new process where in the past, we've given them like an overall building budget, and we've said as long as you stay within that overall building budget, you're fine. And they might have gone over in some areas and under in other areas, but we always just watch that bottom line. From a systems standpoint, that gets difficult because there's really nothing automated that's ensuring on a daily basis as they're doing these things that things are staying within their overall budgets. So starting in January, when they do purchase orders to encumber funds against a code, they have to have a budget enough in budget to support that. And if they don't, then they'll have an opportunity to transfer their budget in between codes. So again, they're still going to stay within their overall budget, but it will be a more detailed budgeting process that will help us in real time ensure and know that we know where we are financially and that, you know, each budget area is staying within their overall budget.
Yes, thank you for making that change. All right, any other questions, comments? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, we're on the home stretch, guys. All right, next up, I am looking for a motion regarding the consent agenda, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Biermeyer seconds.
Any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously to approve the consent agenda. Now we are into the items for individual action, and I am looking for a motion on the payable levy. Anyone?
Do you mean bills payable?
Nope, the payable levy is the first item on the.
Got it.
Scroll
I
way
approve.
down.
I approve the payable levy. I move to approve it.
Second, Dressley.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the payable levy, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously to approve the payable levy. Next, I am on the revised budget. Could I please get a motion on this, please?
Bruns will make a motion to approve the revised budget for 25-26.
Second by Zuzek.
All right, any discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the revised budget for 25-26, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously to approve the revised budget for 25-26. And finally, we have our donations resolution. Could I please get a motion on this?
I move to approve our donations resolution and waive the reading.
Okay, could I get a second, please?
Biermeyer seconds.
Any discussion? I would just like to thank our generous community. This month's total donations are $62,453. So thank you all for your support of Hastings Public Schools. It's very much appreciated. All right, with that, could we take a roll call vote, please, on the donations resolution?
Director Biermeyer.
Aye.
Director Michael Mulder.
Aye.
Director Zuzek.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dressley.
Aye.
Chair Tate.
Aye.
Director Bruns.
Aye.
And Director Milner, aye.
Thank you. All right, and finally, we have our future meetings attached here. We don't have many, you'll notice. As I mentioned earlier, we have our January 5th organizational meeting where we will reshuffle committees. It sounds like we may be adding a couple of liaisons to committees and that kind of thing. And then once those committees are reset, we will be setting up our schedule for our committee meetings. Directly after this, we have our closed meeting to do our superintendent's mid-year performance evaluation. And then tentatively, as was mentioned earlier, we have our January 8th policy committee meeting coming up, and January 12th, we have our community collaboration event. All right, any questions? All right, and at the, again, at the January 5th meeting, we will also be voting on our school board calendar for the year as well, which will set all of our meetings, for all of these meetings for the year. So, all right, with that, I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Milner seconds.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Motion passes unanimously to adjourn at 8:12 p.m. Thank you.